Good afternoon, my name's Peter Bourne. We're sitting here at Coast in Sydney to celebrate World Chardonnay Day, the second time that we've had a look at this wonderful grape variety. It's a beautiful Sydney winter's day or autumn day, but of course Chardonnay is a beautiful every time of day, every time of year wine. I'm sitting here with Andrew Spinaze. He's the chief winemaker of Tyrrell's, and of course they're one of the great pioneers of this grape variety in Australia. To my left, it's David Bicknell from Oak Ridge, and he represents probably the new wave of what's happening with Chardonnay. We'll start with Andrew first, and we'll just talk a little bit about the history of Chardonnay and the Hunter Valley and of course Tyrrell's.
Yeah, thanks Peter. Well, I guess Chardonnay at Tyrrell's, it's our first vineyard was 1971. It was very much experimental. In those days, the wines were fermented in the cellar and put in the new French oak, and they'd actually not matured very long at all. They were probably left in barrels about 3 months and bottled along with the Spinaze in winter of the same vintage. But the style certainly extended as we got into the 80s. We probably went down the Californian track a little bit. We had a bit more alcohol, a bit more wood. And I think the industry sort of led that way a little bit. I think that was probably the migration of Chardonnay a little bit, went downhill. Wines got a bit too big. I think where we are today with Chardonnay, the wine's a lot fresher. There's some amazing single vineyards coming up in the right climates, and there's a lot more winemaking technique going into some more sophisticated Chardonnay styles. I think there's some absolutely amazing Chardonnays we've had out there now, and probably the best I've seen probably the last 5 years, just exceptional Chardonnays which are really world class.
I think the real thing about this is that we're experimenting for a long time, not only in the winery but also in the vineyard. When you talk about the Hunter and your exceptionally fine Chardonnay, but there are a lot of Chardonnays in this country grown in warmer areas that were then treated with a fairly heavy winemaking hand. But I think we've moved through that, as we've said, Spinner, and we're really starting to see that with high quality fruit and with the right winemaking inputs, we can make some very graceful, stylish and very individual wines. So we've got a range of wines we'll get to in a minute that are from around Australia, but they really represent very, very different styles. And I guess, David, you've been working in the Yarra Valley for a long time now, and you've really started to be able to focus in and define those blocks. I mean, the valley floor, those kind of cool vineyards, and that's really part of where you're
Well, you hit the nail on the head before. I think part of the movement has been to show a bit of respect for the variety and move away from a somewhat formulaic approach that they had to be a particular alcohol and acidity and quantity of alcohol, all these sorts of things. Just respect the raw ingredient material, and you're right, identifying those sites as being highly important. And I think that, if you like, the unlearning of some winemaking has certainly helped as well, where people have been prepared to take risks and experiment but produce results, really high quality results out of it, because it is a variety that you can virtually put nothing into it and get the best results. And everyone talks about it being a winemaker's variety. Well, perhaps it is, because it's a compliant variety, but it's one that's also very highly expressive, and we'll see that with these wines here. And we're just refining that. We've got to the point of vineyard maturity now in many of these core areas where we are starting to see a real concentration of depth. We don't have to do things like acidification. People are comfortable with natural fermentation, so it's all added dimensions.
I think that's right. I think there's a lot of, as Dave said, the vineyards are now coming of age. We always thought a vineyard needed to be at least 10 years of age before you really saw what it could produce. And there's a lot of those vineyards out there now, and dissected that into site selection. You see a lot more single vineyards out there. As Dave said, respecting the fruit from those vineyards, single bottles, bottlings of those vineyards, and certainly made a lot more respect and kept it fresh. And I think that's the essence of it. A lot of the Chardonnay years ago was probably a bit too heavy, a bit too alcoholic. Now it's very fresh and fruit driven.
Well, part of that is it's actually given us more diversity.
Yeah.
I think, again, part of that formulaic approach was that it had to be a particular size and shape. And a lot of regions aren't capable of doing that, or if they do, they make really clumsy, jumpy, oversized wines. And so think everyone's really kind of back to local. There's all sorts of places that you would think it's incongruous that they actually have Chardonnay.
Yeah.
That was a classic in some regards. But if you actually have that respect for the raw material, you can produce it.
I think Chardonnay too is very much an open canvas, working with fruit that's can be wooded or non-wooded, unlike say Riesling or Semillon. It's very much making it as a fruit-driven style, but with Chardonnay it's an open canvas. There's lots of many combinations open for the winemaker as to how they see the style or representing the variety, and there's probably no right or wrong in that. And with that laissez-faire sort of effect on producing it, it's made some wonderful Chardonnays.
For me, one of the things to think about with all of this is the marketplace as well. I mean, I'm not an ABC anything but Chardonnay. I'm actually a BC. I started drinking wine before Chardonnay was around in this country. It was Riesling and Semillon. I've been through the waves that we've seen in the marketplace, the fashions, if you like. And everyone embraced Chardonnay because it was so powerful and enveloping. And then, of course, we saw Sauvignon Blanc come along, more recently Pinot Grigio. We will never return to the singular Chardonnay drinking perhaps of the 80s, but I think that's a wonderful thing itself because we've got the diversity in terms of variety, but now we've got the diversity in terms of style that we see in front of us, and we're defining those styles, and I think the consumers, really that's the next message that we need to get out to. Is that enough for the moment? Good.